Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for the risk management webinar. My name is Omar Abu Ghosh, and I think most of you, they have joined me through the CFM training, and there are some new people as well. So welcome for everyone. Today, we will go through risk management general webinar. But before that, I want to introduce myself to ensure the credibility of the training. So I'm working in facility management industry since around 7 years, and I do have some certificates related to the field and other fields as well. So I hold some certificates related to maintenance like CMRP, CMRT, in facility management, CFM, AFM, in asset management like CAMA, sustainability, energy management, health and safety, cleaning, and absolutely I have certificate in risk management, which is the subject of today. So I hold a certificate from PMI called RMP, Risk Management Professional. So before we start, we will just go through some housekeeping items. Okay, guys. First thing, I kept your mic on mute to avoid anyone like opening his mic by mistake. So please feel free to text me or raise your hand through the Zoom link. And of course, I can open the mic. This meeting will be recorded. I'm going to use it for future as a reference. And of course, the formats will be shared on the WhatsApp group, which we created already. So I'm going to share the link of the WhatsApp group later. And of course, tomorrow or after tomorrow, I will share with you the formats for like risk assessment or whatever we will discuss today. We will discuss today the workshop purpose, of course, the key concepts and definitions, risk management processes, and Q&A. Okay, so what is the purpose of this workshop? First thing is we want to understand the risk management framework, okay? So I think most of us, we are familiar with risk management. What is risk identification, risk assessment? And the one who already went for the CFM training, we have one competency called risk management, right? But today we will discuss from A to Z. It will be a brief, it will not be in details. However, you'll understand the full framework, how you will apply it from A to Z. Okay. Also, how to apply risk management for yourself as individual and how you will apply it to the business as well. Regardless, it is a facility management business, project management, or business in general, you can apply it. And we will focus mainly on risk identification and risk response, because honestly, if we go for risk planning, it will take a lot of time. So these 2 points we will focus most. Okay, so in the beginning, I'm going to go through some key concepts and definitions. It's just gonna go through it. We will read it. After that, we will go for the discussion. So bear with me until we finish it. And later we can go with the real life, let's say a practical example. First thing, we will go for the definition of risk management. What is risk management really? And what is the ISO related to risk management? So there is ISO called 31000 for risk management. They define risk management as guidelines, provide principles, framework, and a process for managing risk. It can be used by organization, regardless of its size, activity, or sector. So if we go to the definition, this is risk management. Okay. Now, when we say risk, some people, they will ask, what is risk then? So we can define risk as uncertain event or condition that if it will happen, it will have positive or negative impact on one or more objectives. If for the project, if it is a project, or for a process, if it is a process related to facility management, or whatever the business objective is. Now, you will ask, risk management is a good thing or a bad thing? So, sorry, risk is a good thing or a bad thing? Actually, risk, it can be good, it can be bad. So if it is a good thing, we call it opportunity. If it is a bad thing, we call it a threat or issue. Okay, so how we can consider risk a positive thing? Because normally in the context of risk management, we think only about risk as a bad thing, right? So let's say that you want to invest money in cryptocurrency. I think most of you, they know Bitcoin, right? Correct? You know what is Bitcoin. So you want to invest some money. If you invested your money maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, you will make a fortune out of that, correct? Because the price of Bitcoin has doubled and tripled many times through the years. However, if you invested your money in 2022, Bitcoin went up and again went down. So investing in crypto itself is a risky activity. So it can be opportunity for some people. It can be a threat. So you have to know when you have to invest your money. So this is what we call good risk and bad risk, opportunity and a threat. Okay, now we have another term called secondary risk. So what is secondary risk? Sometimes you know that you have a risk, either positive or negative, and you will apply some control measures to control that risk. So this control measure will create a new risk. We call that secondary risk, and later we will show some example about what is secondary risk actually. Okay, we have also another term called residual risk. Normally, residual risk is the risk that will stay after applying the measure. So secondary risk is a new risk that you have created because you applied a response or a control measure. However, residual risk, you apply a response, you will reduce it. So whatever left, we call it residual risk. We have another term called risk management plan, okay? And it is a component of project management plan that will describe how the organization will take the risk management activities in a structured and streamlined way. Okay, we have another term called risk appetite. So again, we said that you want to invest your money in cryptocurrency, right? So some people, they will feel afraid to invest because they have low risk appetite, because we know that cryptocurrency is risky. So I will go with something very safe, okay? I will invest my money maybe in real estate, not in crypto, because I have low risk appetite. I don't want to lose or win a lot of money. I just want to stay in the safe zone. So I have low risk appetite in that formula. Okay, so we have another term called risk register, and I think most of us, we heard about it, which is a place we record all identified risks, the things that we identified. And normally we keep it in a central project server. It could be maybe a shared file or a shared folder as well. And we have a term called risk owner. Risk owner is a person or entity who have the accountability of that risk, to manage that risk. Okay. Last definitions is the management reserve and contingency reserve. So management reserve, normally amount of money or amount of time for the schedule, we keep it aside because we don't know some risk. We don't know the risk. There are risks that are known and there are risks that unknown. So management reserve, we keep money or time schedule because of unknown risk. Contingency reserve, we keep the money because of known undefined risk. Okay, so this is the definitions that we have to know before we go through the risk management process. Okay, it is essential. There are some other definitions that we will not go through because here we will focus today in simplifying and making the things more practical. So there are other terms and there are some concepts that, of course, we can go through them, but let's keep it simple and practical. Okay, so now the risk management process. Normally, in most of organization, what we can see is people start with risk identification and risk analysis and risk response. There are two missing parts in the risk management process, which is risk management plan and monitoring and closing the risk. At least personally, what I have seen in most of the organization, they will start with risk identification without having risk management plan. And then they will do the risk analysis, they will have risk response, but monitoring and closing the risk also is left behind. Okay, so if you want to go through the risk management process, you have to go through risk management plan, then you identify your risk, then you analyze those risks that you identified, then you respond to those risks, then you monitor and close risks. Okay, so now we understand the process of risk management. We will go for details for each one. Okay, what is risk management plan? So risk management plan, normally it is a high-level document. It will tell you as a stakeholder how we will manage the risk in general, the way that we will manage. Okay, so first thing is you will have an overall system for the risk management strategy. Okay, and you will tell the people how you're going to execute the risk management process. For example, what are the formats that you are going to use? Okay, and you have to integrate risk management with all activities that you have, all divisions in the organization. So this is the purpose of the risk strategy and the planning. What are the techniques that we can use so we can prepare our risk management plan? Of course, if you want to have a risk management plan, you should have someone that who understands the risk management process. So you should have an expert who can advise on that. Sometimes you have to do also stakeholder analysis, and you can go through some meetings as well, so you can decide the risk management plan. Okay, so for the risk management plan, there are a lot of components, honestly, but again, we want to keep the things let's say practical and simple. So I'm not going to go through everything. However, in the risk management plan, what are the things that you have to create. First thing, you have to create reporting formats like risk register or whatever the document is related to the risk management plan. Okay, how we are going to track our risk management plan? Are we going to use software? We are going to use Microsoft 365, Google Workspace. What are the risk categories that we have? Okay, so in the risk categories, normally we use something called risk breakdown structure. So risk categories is mainly you do high level categorization of the risks that you may have, and we will discuss that in example later. Risk strategy, how we approach and manage the risk. Okay, roles and responsibilities for the people. Who will be responsible and what is his responsibilities? What's the risk owner responsibilities? What about the funding and the money related to the risk management? So everything will be mentioned in the risk management plan. This is why it is very important. Okay, so now we said there are two important documents when it comes to the high level. We have something called risk breakdown structure. So risk breakdown structure is mainly high level identification of the categories only. Okay, so we cannot say this is risk identification. It's just high level identification for the subjects or the categories that can happen. So let's say in facility management, we can define facility management, the integration of people, places, and the processes, correct? ISO 41000. So we can say that all sources of risk related to the people category, to the places, to the processes. This is just an example. And of course, you can change it. Okay. So the people could be the staff, the client, the tenants, the visitors. Okay. And the places could be plant rooms, offices, utility rooms. We can also have a breakdown for the process like maintenance, cleaning, pest control, and so on. Okay, so we call that risk breakdown structure. And if you are involved in project management, you will hear another term called work breakdown structure, WBS. So it is a similar concept. Okay, so we identified the high level document, okay, related to the structure of the risk. Then we have to identify the definitions. So let's say me and Shifin, okay, and Junaid, we work in the same organization. Junaid said it's high risk. Shifin said it's medium risk. I said it's very high risk. What does that mean? What do you mean by high? The probability is 60% that will happen, 50%, 70%, 80%. What about very high? How about the cost impact? Maybe for Shifin, when he says it's high, he means 10,000 dirhams. Maybe when I say it's high, it's 100,000 dirham. So we have to have definitions for everyone. So we will agree on what high mean, very high mean, medium mean, in impact when it comes to the time and to the cost. Okay, so it is really important to define here, because if we don't have that in the risk management plan, it will be very subjective. So then the risk management doesn't make any sense when we do it, because everyone have different definition. Okay, so this is really important when it comes to the risk management plan. Okay, so now we understand that we have risk management plan. We completed the risk management plan. Let's say the two more important factors when it comes to the practicality and simplicity. Let's go with risk breakdown structure. Okay, and we go for the definition of the high, very high, and all of that. Now we completed our risk management plan. What is next? What is the next step? Unfortunately, again, most of the organizations who are not mature in risk management, they will go directly for risk identification. I'm not sure in your current organization what is the setup. However, if you can see outside, the boss will call and he will ask, let's make risk register, without having even a plan in the beginning, right? So risk identification is mainly to identify the risks and to document those risks. Okay, now the big question will be how you are going to identify the risk, or what are the success factors for identifying the risks, how I can make sure that I'll succeed in identifying the risks. So first thing is early identification. Okay, the earliest, the better. Iterative identification. It's not one-time job. It has to be 1 round, 2nd round, 3 round, and every time it will be iterative process. So you have to create and update the risks that you have. It should be comprehensive. Okay, you should identify the opportunities. Most of us, I think we focus on the issues, not on the opportunities, right? So normally you will have a bad and a good risk. So focus also on the good risk. It should have multiple perspectives. And here, this is why you should involve different stakeholders. it should be linked to the objectives, because when you want to identify your risk, and later we will discuss about some methodologies, how we can focus on the main things or the main objectives for our organization. So we will not just waste our time in the small stuff, but it's better to start with the main objectives. You should have a complete risk statement, okay? And you should be objective as much as possible and avoid bias for risk identification, because sometimes we are biased for something. So we try to write our risk register in a way that we want, okay? Because there is some subjectivity, and later we will discuss that. Okay, so now when it comes to the risk identification, we understand what is risk identification and what are the success factors that we have to consider to have a good risk identification process. Now, we said that you will have risk breakdown structure, correct? So the risk breakdown structure, you will have risk categories. And as you can see in this table, we have different categories. You can say technical, external, organizational, project management. And in each category, you can see how you can break it down, like requirements, technology, interfaces, performance. In the external, you can write customer, contract, market, suppliers. Okay, so this is the way you want to break it down. It should be clear in the risk management plan. Then you will use it in the risk identification. It will make your job more streamlined and more structured. Okay. So now you started the risk identification by having the risk category. Next step is how we are going to do the risk identification in more details. Okay, there are many ways to do it. We will discuss few here. Okay, first thing is to have risk history. Let's say that you are working in residential tower in Dubai, and you had a new residential tower that you have to manage, FM contract. So you have a data for that project similar to that. So you can use the historical data and you can apply it to the new project or the new facility, and you can see what is mutual. A second thing, if you have another project that you did before, for example, epoxy painting, or you did some, whatever the project is, or software project. So what you can do is to use the previous risk register. Okay, you might have also a checklist. Let's say that you are someone who have experience in risk management. You will create a checklist that, let's say, in general, most of the project, they will face most of those risks or some of those risks. Okay, so we can say common list of risks that you can send it to anyone who will join a new site, or if you take a new contract, and you can start with that. So you can use a checklist. Okay, you can use expert judgment. And here, when it comes to the expert judgment, there are many ways to do it. One of them, and I think one of the most thing that we use, is brainstorming sessions, right? Sometimes you have to interview some people who have the same project before. Okay, interview some other stakeholders. Maybe you can invite some subject matter experts who work in insurance companies. Okay, so expert judgment is another way how we can identify our risk. Also, let's assume that you work in a project, or you are working in a AMC contract. So month over month, you will create some status report, right? Progress report, quality reports. Your health and safety team will come and they will do inspection. They will raise new risks. Those risks, we can take it and identify a new risk and add it to our project status. Okay, so now we understand the risk identification. After we finish the risk identification, we will have output, which is the risk register. In the risk register, this is a simple format, okay? And of course, there are many formats out there with more details. But again, let's say that your company is still new in risk identification. So if you will start with complex processes and formats, no one will go through it. So it's always better to start with simple and practical things. And with time, when your company or organization mature in risk management, you can improve your formats and improve the process. So let's start with the basic. You will have a risk ID. You will have a risk category, as we mentioned in the RBS, risk breakdown structure. And you will mention the risk. Let's assume that you have a facility, okay? And you are providing water through domestic water tank with a booster pump, okay? So one of the risks that you may have, what? Disruption of the water supply system that will affect the tenants and their businesses. So we can say the likelihood is a 3. Okay, how you define the likelihood? Again, you should have some experience, you should understand the system. So you will say that the likelihood is a 3 based on your setup. Okay, let's assume that you don't have water, or the water interruption. You can write in the description exactly what do you mean by water disruption, how many hours. You can put more details, but let's keep things simple. So let's say that the likelihood is 3, the impact is 4. Okay, so now you will say the overall risk is 12. This is, we call it risk analysis, and we will discuss it later. Okay, so after that, you will apply risk response. In the risk response, you will say how you are going to deal with that risk. Then you will have a net analysis. After you applied your control measure or risk response, how did you reduce the likelihood or impact? And again, we will discuss that in the risk response, and you will have the risk owner. So we can say this is a simple risk register that we can start with. Okay, and we will share that folder or that document after we finish on the WhatsApp group. Okay, so now we understand the risk identification, how we identify the risk, and what is the output of risk identification? It is a risk register. Right. Now we got the risk register. What is next? Next thing is you want to analyze that risk. I think most of us, we are familiar with that. However, keep in your mind that risk analysis can go through a qualitative risk analysis and a quantitative risk analysis. Most of us, we are familiar with these concepts, but the framework itself, how it will go, what comes first, okay, what are the methodologies that we can use, is the problem here. This is why we should build a framework. We should understand the framework, okay, and the sequence of that. So we will start the risk analysis. So in the risk analysis, you will have a qualitative and a quantitative. The quantitative, from the name itself, it's about the quantity. You quantify the numbers when it comes to the impact and the probability as well. So it is objective approach. And in many cases, we don't use it because it's very expensive sometimes to do it. And you need some special software sometimes. If you heard before about Monte Carlo simulation, okay? So quantitative, we don't use it that much, okay? Or we can say for very high level projects. So we will focus today only on the qualitative analysis, which is subjective in nature. And it is required for any process or any project. And it's easy to perform. Any one of us can do it, and no need for any software. Okay, so we will not speak about quantitative. We will just discuss the qualitative. Most of us, we saw that matrix before, right? 5x5 matrix. We use it normally in qualitative risk analysis. So you can do 3x3, 4x4, 5x5 matrix, and you can write the impact on the y-axis, and you can write the likelihood on the x-axis. We can say that rare, unlikely, possible, likely, and certain. And again, in the risk management plan, you should have a definition about what do you mean by likely? What do you mean by major? What do you mean by minor? It is really important. So we will speak the same language when we have those definitions. Okay, so you can see that in the risk analysis, you will have, let's say that it's 2 minor impact and it's unlikely to happen. So the risk score will be 4. Okay, you can multiply both and then you can get the result here. The higher the number, the riskier it is. Okay, when it comes from the likelihood side and from the impact side. So we call that a qualitative risk analysis. Okay, so now we did the risk analysis. We want to prepare our response. I know what is the risk. I identify it. We have risk management plan, how we will work and what is the approach. Now we want to respond to that risk. Okay, in the risk management plan, we said we will define the appetite of the company. Maybe some companies or organization, they don't like risk. They call them risk averse. So they want a safe investment, a safe project. Okay, so the risk response should be in line with that. Okay, so now when we talk about risk response, there are 3 important factors that we have to consider. One of them is risk response plan. And in the risk response plan, you have to focus on elimination of the risk if you can. If you can't, you lower the probability or you lower the impact when we talk about bad risks here, okay? Issues. And of course, with good risks, we will discuss later. We also have to mention the risk triggers. Risk trigger is mainly something that will happen. It will tell you that the risk is coming. The risk is coming. Let's say that you have a delivery of materials. Okay, you have a project that you need delivery for the materials. It should come by the 1st of July 2023. Let's say today is 15th of June and they have to ship it from Europe or US. So you are sending to the supplier and he's not responding to you, and you know that the shipment will take 3 weeks. So you know that it's coming. There's delay. Okay, so we call that risk trigger. We also should identify the risk ownership. Who is the owner of that risk? Who owns that risk? Okay, who's accountable for that risk? So these things are really important when it comes to the risk response. Now, we said we have a bad risk and we have a good risk, opportunities and threats. Both, they are different in the way you deal with them. So when we talk about threats, either you accept it, mitigate it, transfer it, avoid it, escalate it. For example, I have really noisy neighbors. Okay, they have a kid who will open the door every single Sunday at 7 a.m. and he will go and shout in the corridor. Okay. So I complained to the management. I sent many emails. I called the security. There's no point. This kid is going every single week, and then I have to wake up on 7 a.m. every single week. So I do have options. This is a threat. This is a risk that I'm going to wake up every single Sunday early and I cannot sleep. So I feel tired every single Sunday, right? So here I have different methodologies that I can deal with that risk. Either I accept that this kid will go and shout, and that's what I can do. Maybe I can mitigate it. Maybe I can fix a new door that it's better insulated, so to reduce the noise. Maybe I will avoid it at all. I'm just going to leave and take another apartment. So in the threats, you can deal with it with different responses, and you have to decide which one you are going to take based on your risk appetite. Now, you have opportunities, right? The opportunities, how are you going to take it? First thing, you can accept it. You can enhance it, okay? You can share the risk. Share here, we normally talk about it when we say share, it's like having a third party will share. For example, there's a big project and you don't have enough resources, so there's opportunity to take it. So you share it with someone else. Maybe you do some, you cooperate on the same project. Exploit, escalate, okay? So exploit normally is taking advantage of it. Regardless, for example, let's say that you are working in a stock market, okay? Or in the government of the stock market. And you know that this company X will open or close or something. So you have some idea that if this closes, the stock will go up or down. So you can exploit that opportunity and use it, regardless if it is ethical or not. Of course, this is unethical, right? However, we call it exploit the opportunity, okay? And you can escalate as well. So there are many ways how you will deal with opportunities. So now we understand what is risk management plan, what are the components of risk management plan, what is the risk identification, how we analyze those risks that we identified, then how we are going to respond to those risks, either positive or negative risks, opportunities or threats. So we can see here in this example that what I mentioned, that you have a supplier and you have a project, he will not come. So you know already that there's a trigger. So what is the risk response? You can agree on penalties with the supplier, check the availability of the materials with other local vendors. Okay, the risk owner, it will be marketing manager. So in the risk register, you will find something like that. Okay, now we completed that. We identified the risk, we analyze it, we respond to it. Now, if we go to plan, do, check, act cycle, we know the PDCA cycle, right, in quality management. Normally, when you do any process, you want to check your response. It was good or not, what you have to do, what you have to modify. It's like a feedback. So first is identify new risk and plan for them. When you do risk monitoring, you have to identify new risk, because you will go and you check risk response. Maybe there are new secondary risk created, right? Or maybe new risk came. So you have to record it. You have to report your risk. Sometimes you have to reclassify your risk based on the changes that happen to the project or to the process. And you have to keep a track of the existing risk, because we said that there are some risks. The risk, it's a probability. It might happen, it might not happen, right? So you have to keep track of that. The risk is still open or it's closed, finish, it will not happen. So we keep track of that, okay? And we reassess it. We check the risk triggers, okay? And sometimes the risk, it become more critical over time because there are some changes to the situation, okay? So it is really important to keep your eye on the project, on the risk that already identified. So we call that risk monitoring. Now, how you will succeed in risk monitoring? First thing is to have integrated risk monitoring, okay? It should not be discrete, it should be integrated with all processes. It should be continuous, okay? And you should always focus on the risk triggers. So you will see, okay, there's a risk triggers, the risk is coming. And you should maintain risk awareness with the team and the stakeholders. Okay, so monitoring is important. Why? People will still aware about that there is a risk, because normally what will happen is you will create a document, you will throw it in the shared folder, and you'll read it one time. Your manager will approve it, and that's it. You never see it again. It will still you will keep it idle on the shelf. No one will use it. So the risk monitoring will ensure that we still monitor the risk and we keep updated. Okay, everyone, all stakeholders should be involved as well, and they should monitor the risk as well. Okay, through maybe some meetings you will do, let's say monthly, quarterly, whatever the frequency is. Now, what are the techniques how you monitor your risk? Reserve analysis. We said in the beginning we have something called management reserve and contingency reserve, which is the amount of money or time that we keep as a safety cushion in case the risk happened. Okay, so when we do the analysis, let's say that we have spent 60%, 70%, 80%, we will know how much do we spend. Okay, so we call that risk monitoring. We do audits, which is part of the monitoring in general. We do risk reassessment. We do some status meeting. Okay, again, we can do it quarterly, monthly, depends on your project or your process and the risk that you have. And the variance analysis. Based on your risk, you said if those risks happen, it will cost us 100,000, but now it costed you 500,000. Okay, so variance analysis is important to know the quality of the risk register that we have and the risk management process in general, because if there's a huge variance, that means there's something wrong, right, in the risk identification of risk response, whatever it is, but there's something wrong that we have to monitor and keep our eye on. Okay, so guys, now I hope that it's clear, okay, the framework in general. Now we will go for some case studies. But before we start that, please feel free to ask any question. You can post in the chat. If everything is clear, that's amazing. And if not, see, there's a risk of fire now. Oh. Okay, guys, sorry, this is the fire alarm. So if you have any question, please feel free to put it in the chat. I can open the mic if you have any questions so far. Okay, we will go through now case study for me and you, because I believe that if you cannot do risk assessment or risk management, the process for yourself as individual, you can't do it for an organization. Okay, if you cannot do a strategy for yourself, you cannot do it for the organization. So we will start by me and you, and then we will move to a commercial facility just to make it more practical and so you can relate to it. Okay, so you and me. One day I woke up in the night. Okay, it was 3 a.m. So during that time, I heard a sound inside my apartment in the washroom. Okay, so I heard water. So I thought, like, who is in my place? I was living alone during that time. Okay, so I freaked out. It was 3 a.m. The lights are off. So I stepped out of my bed and there was water on the floor. Okay, it was like, we can say 1-inch water. So then I know that there is something wrong in the water supply. There's a water leakage. Okay, during that time, it was around 1-inch water, and I have a power extension on the floor. Okay, and it's really dark, so I could sleep. So there are many risks related to that. Okay, so after that, I started to think about that risk. Like, okay, maybe today I am at home, but maybe tomorrow I'm not here, right? Maybe I'll be traveling outside. Maybe I'll be at work. Okay, so after that, it came to my mind, why not to do risk management for myself, for my apartment, and for myself as individual? Okay, so that's how it started. So when you think about it, let's now think together, guys. Let's think together. Let's say that you have your own home or apartment. This is as a facility. We consider now as a facility. You have maybe power, right? You have water supply, you have gas supply, you have money, you have cash, you have some expensive belongings, you have your passport, maybe you have a kid, you have people inside. So there's a health and safety risk. Okay, so this is when we talk about your facility in general. And you can do risk assessment for yourself as well as individual, not only for your facility. Okay, so think with me right now, guys. What could be the risks when it comes to your apartment? Okay, what could happen? For me, I had a water flood in my apartment due to this flexible hose damage. But what about you? What do you think now? Okay, how you can identify your risks? Okay, guys, so I'm gonna open the mic right now if you want. And you can also put it in the chat box. That would be amazing. So I want to hear from you guys. Now we should do a brainstorming session together to understand what could be the risks. Okay, so you can unmute yourself now if you want to speak. That would be great. If not, you can just put it in the books. Okay, think about it now. Okay, Amjad said theft and fire hazard. Thank you, Amjad. Justice said fire. Bassam, electricity overload sometimes. What else? Roger said gas leak. Wi-Fi turns off. Okay, great. Junaid said damage of the furniture. Okay, damage of the furniture due to fire, due to water. We have to maybe be more specific when it comes to that because each one will have different response. So let's just nature calamity due to water. Okay, okay. Type. Let's say that we will have first risk, which is we can say gas leak cause fire and damage the. Now we don't talk, we can say damage the furniture and let's say or health and safety hazard as well, fire damage apartment in general plus health and safety risk, let's say. Okay, I'm just gonna write like that, health and safety risk. Okay, to make it just simple, we will write like that. Okay, so this is one of the risks that you have identified. Okay, so Junaid, you said that there's gas leak, I think. So what could be the risk response here? What is the risk response? Or what is the likelihood? Sorry, what is the likelihood? Because before we go, we have to say, what is the likelihood? What is the impact, guys? In the comments, but you have a gas leak, cause fire damage, assuming that you are using LPG system. Okay, what is the likelihood? What is the impact here? Maybe 2. Thank you, Amjad. So again, if we don't have the right risk management plan, we don't know what 2 means or 4 means. Okay, it's very subjective in nature, but let's assume that we know already. So what Amjad says, it's 2. Okay, so we can say it's 2. What about the impact? Impact, Amjad said 4. Okay, so the impact, we said damage of the furniture, damage of the apartment in general, and health and safety risk. So Amjad said 4. Someone will say no, 5, because if I have a kid and my kid got hurt because of the fire, it's going to be a major thing. So what is the risk total score? We can say it is 10. Okay. Right. Now, for that risk, what you can do? What do you think? What you can do? Have a gas sensor. Thank you, Roger. So we can say that we can have a gas sensor. What else? Auto mode, preventive maintenance. Thank you, Amjad. Preventive maintenance. Yes, we do preventive maintenance to protect ourselves from risk, especially for there's also a risk that the detector will not work or the sensor, right? So you applied already a measure, but still auto cut off regulator. Thank you. So it will be connected to the sensor. So we can say gas sensor with solenoid. With solenoid that it will. Okay. Foams. Thank you. Sprinkler. So all of these we call it risk responses or control measures, we can say. Okay. Type. Next one. Let's say someone said theft, right? Okay, let's go with the theft. Guys, please feel free to open your mic and participate. So what do you think about the theft?
Theft is going to vary from one location to the other in terms of likelihood.
Okay.
So probably newer areas of Dubai has like lower likelihood. Older areas have higher likelihood. So
we can say one for the likelihood for Dubai.
Yeah. Yes.
And the impact. The impact, it depends. What do you have in your apartment, right? What do you have? Let's say
Exactly.
You have $500,000 dirham. So it will be high or low impact.
Yes.
I think most of
Impact
us will be high.
See, the problem is even if you don't have a lot of valuables, the psychological impact will be high. So probably it's a higher impact kind of incident.
So for you, it is 5.
Yes.
Okay, great. So for you, it's 5, correct. Some people, they may say 3 if I don't have any valuable thing, but for you, you consider the psychological impact. Again, so there is some subjectivity here for each person. Thank you. But what about the risk response? What you will do regarding the theft?
First thought is security systems put in place like CCTV,
CCTV. What else?
security guards in commercial residential buildings.
So access control system.
Yes.
What else we can do?
Maybe
Burglar alarm.
insurance against theft.
Great, insurance. Thank you. It's like risk sharing. What else?
Yes.
Maybe you will have a safe with a passcode, right? Or like biometrics, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Maybe having security guard, correct?
Yes. Or maybe even shifting the risk entirely by storing your valuables somewhere else, like bank safes or something like that.
So you avoid losing your things. You avoid it at all.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, actually, one time I was thinking about the same thing. So I bought like a small safe, but I said if someone will go in, he will take the small safe. Like I'm putting everything in the same place, so it will.
Yes.
If someone come, he will take it. Yeah. So
Yes.
you are right. Sometimes it's better to avoid. طيب. Now we applied all of that. What do you think? What is the likelihood? If we apply it, huh? If we assuming that we applied that, how much the likelihood will be?
Of the incident itself, I don't think it should change. Okay, no, that would change it if.
It's already
Okay,
low.
maybe it's already low, but it like I don't think we can go any lower than 1.
Yeah. So let's assume that it's already very low and we keep it 1. So normally, if it is already low, we don't apply those measures. But for the sake of the example, we said that we're gonna apply it, assuming that it's, let's say it was before, it's not 1. Let's say it was 2. Okay. So now maybe it will become 1, right?
1.
You have to apply
Yes.
those measures. And the impact, if you avoided like losing your belongings and everything, maybe the psychological effect itself only, I don't know how much we can put.
Maybe 3 now.
Yes, we can put it 3. Yes. And who's the risk owner? Here, of course, it's me and you, right? At the end of the day, it's
Yeah.
we are the owner of that risk because we are owning that apartment. But so gas leak, theft. What else? What could we have for apartment? Have any of you invested money in stocks before and cryptocurrency? Any of you?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So what is the amount of money? Let's say it's a big amount or a small amount?
It's a small amount.
Okay, so investing money. Okay, so in the investing money, you want to invest. Now, what do you want to invest in? So we can say that in risk, we can say here, the risk is investing money, losing my money due to investing, right? So we can say losing my wealth by investing money by investing money. Okay, now you can write the details here. Okay, I know it's just like it does not fit in the cell. However, I think it's okay. But what is the description? The description, let's say, did you invest in cryptocurrency or what?
Yeah.
خلاص, a crypto investment.
Losing value.
And
Okay.
it's volatile market, right? So you invest in crypto. Okay, we can put more details, but let's just keep it simple. So what is the likelihood of you losing money?
It's very high because it's very volatile.
Thank you. So we can say, let's say in crypto, it's 4. This is subjective again, right? But what is the impact?
Yeah.
You said you invested a small amount of money.
So maybe 2.
Maybe 2. So the total score is 10.
8.
8, sorry.
Yeah.
Right. Now, what is the risk response here? Guys, what is the risk response? How you can reduce the likelihood?
The only thing that I can think of is diversifying.
Thank you. Thank you. Tariq said research. Thank you, Tariq. Of course, research, when you know the things, it's good. Diversification is one of the best methodologies how you deal with the investment risk, which is diversification. Okay. Where's Shiffin? Today Shiffin is silent. Mr. Shiffin.
No, but I'm actually watching it, actually, just getting new things.
Yeah. So Shiffin, if you're invested, you'll do diversification, right? What else? Shiffin, Mr. Shiffin, tell us about the risks that you think it's related to you or your apartment. So we did diversification here. Now, what else? What could happen? Other than investing, gas leak, theft, it could be water.
Water is a major factor. Yeah, water is there. Gas leak, fire. That's. I think that's all. Power failures. Short circuit is also part of fire, if you can.
So power failure. This is a risk.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. So power failure is a risk. Okay. Don't mind this random text because it's really difficult to just center it inside. So a power failure is a risk. So power failure due to short circuit, right? Okay, what you can do regarding that? Let's assume that what Shiffin, what do you think? What is the likelihood of having short circuit?
Uh, Two. Likelihood is very less in UAE, actually.
Yes, you are right. Thank you. How about the impact? It depends what do you have, but what do you think in your case? How much you can rate?
Uh, Three. No, power circuit. That's what. See, if power failure alone is a factor, then it's likely less. But if you're going for short circuit, then I should make it 4.
Because of the fire.
Yes, the fire factor is considered.
Great.
Otherwise,
So
2.
now, in your risk description, you can say power failure due to short circuit, which will cause fire.
Correct. Correct.
So we will
Then
be
it's
more
4.
specific. Yes.
Then it's
thank you.
4. Yeah.
So we put 4. So the total score, how much? It's 8.
8. Yeah.
But what you can do regarding the short circuit?
We could maintain the DBs and SNDBs
So we
to
can do
avoid any loose ends.
preventive maintenance.
Correct.
Yeah. So we can do preventive maintenance. Junaid said, check the wiring, which part of the preventive maintenance. Then we reduce the likelihood. Then we reduce the impact, because when we apply risk response, we can reduce the likelihood and we can reduce the impact. Okay. Then we reduce the risk exposure. But thank you guys. Thank you so much for your participation. I'm just gonna mute the mics again, just to make sure that no one by mistake will open the mic. Okay. But I did a risk list here. Okay, just for the sake of example, I said in my case, I have risk categories like information, important document damage. This is related to risk category is information risk. Okay, I categorized my risk breakdown structure: information, property, well-being, financial. Okay, so you can see the categories here. Then I said, what is the risk? It's a flooding risk. So what is the description? Damage in water supply system, flexible hose, PPR line, which will flood the apartment. What's the likelihood? What's the impact? Based on my experience, I had it twice. I had it twice from flexible hose. So I think likelihood is relatively like moderate to high. So I can say 3. The impact was 4. I could get electrocuted. My files could get damaged, furniture, etc. Okay. So the risk exposure 12. So now risk response. Shall I avoid it, mitigate it, share it? If I want to avoid it, for example, when I go out of the country, what I do, I go to security, I ask him to open the utility room, and we close the water supply valve. That's it. Okay. Some of the people, they may fix a camera so they can watch their house 24/7. Okay. Also, Dubai municipality, they have a smart meter. If you have high flow, it will send you notification. Okay. So there are many ways. There are many ways. Right. Let's go through it. At the end, I put information risk. Stealing my password, which I'm using for all of my accounts, because a cyber attack. The hacker will get my password, which I'm using for all of my accounts. So I have a risk that I'm using the same account for everything. So the likelihood is 2. Okay. Based on the way I'm using my computer and how I protect it, I can say the likelihood is 2. But if he got it, it's 5. My bank accounts and everything, because I'm using the same password. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use different password to mitigate the problem. If he stole one password, at least I have maybe 45 accounts. He can use only one, not the 45. Now I used a different password. This has created a new risk. the risk of forgetting my password, we call that secondary risk. Okay, we said secondary risk is created because of applying a risk response. So I forgot my passwords. Okay, so I have 40 accounts, and there's a risk that I will forget my passwords, which is really high. Okay, just imagine you are using 45 or 40 different passwords. Absolutely, you will forget them, and you cannot write them on a paper because maybe someone will steal it. So the risk response was to use password manager, which is Bitwarden I used, honestly. So you can see, guys, how did we reach to that risk register is by first applying the risk breakdown structure. Then we always hear about go and ask insurance company, go check the civil defense. So I wanted to take just a screenshot to show you that whatever you hear, it's correct. Just go to any civil defense website, UAE, any country, they will tell you. So here we can see that home risks, cooking, smoking, candles. This is based on the historical data that they have. So it will help you to prepare your risk register. Okay, so this is one of the ways that we prepare our risk register and we identify our risk. Going to insurance companies, maybe civil defense or authorities that you work on that, police reports. Okay, so risk breakdown structure, we start. We go to some historical data from the government bodies or insurance companies. You can go to US website. US, they have amazing information on their website when it comes to the formatting, when it comes to the reports that they do, a lot of information. One of them is FEMA, okay, which is the federal agency for risk. Okay, you can go through their website. Type. We said in our apartment. Now I show you the risk register, which is the output of this process. However, if we go back in time and we think about how we identify flooding, if you can see here, the flexible hose got damaged, okay, for the sink. So this is the reason why I have the flood. So I have risk of electrocution once I have the flood, risk of electronics damage, risk of furniture damage, risk of slip, risk of documents damage. This is another way we do it to identify the risk, which is me and you to think, to brainstorm with other people as well. Okay, so what was my risk response? First time it happened, I didn't learn from my lesson. Second time it happened while I am at home. It was a Saturday morning, I was at home. Immediately I went and stopped the water. So I replaced the flexible hose for everything in my apartment, including the water heater. I thought about buying home insurance. If you go to home insurance, there are a lot of options when it comes to the home insurance. It could be even for maintenance. It could be for appliances. It could be for everything. You can insure it. Okay. However, the price, it could be high. It depends. So for me, I thought like buying home insurance, it doesn't matter to me because I don't have that valuable items inside. I had another thing, which is I noticed when it's a flooding and the cover is still there, the water will flood. So if you remove the cover, the water will be drained. So I removed all of the covers in my apartment, even though it doesn't look good. Okay, so it doesn't look good aesthetically, but I thought like I don't care about it as long as I will not have flood again. Okay, so when it comes to the financial, as we discussed, that don't put all of your eggs in one basket, because if you want to invest in a crypto, it will be very volatile market. So you may lose all of your money or you will make a lot of money. But for me, I don't have a high risk appetite, to be honest. Personally, maybe you have. So normally when you go for the advice from financial advisors, they will tell you, for example, put 5% in cryptocurrency. You invest in stock market, especially for the index fund, okay? Which is index fund is mainly you buy one item that will contain 100, 200, 300, 400 companies in one, okay? So they call it index. So this is also diversification for the stocks itself, okay? Maybe you can keep some cash, emergency fund. Maybe you can buy real estate. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket. So this is another way we do it, diversification, as a way to manage financial investment risk, okay? I will give you another example about the thinking process, okay? Because normally you will write just the risk identification. However, if you think about it, there are a lot of details that will come later. So I will tell you the scenario happened with me personally. After I had that, I thought that, let's assume that today I had a flood. So maybe I'll have fire one day. So if I have fire, I will lose my laptop and my documents. I have very valuable documents in my laptop, okay? Documents since like 10, 15 years, trainings, documents that related to work. So if I lose it, it will be a huge impact on me. So I thought I will buy a new hard drive, okay? Because first thing, my initial thought was, what if my laptop get damaged? I will lose everything. So it's better to buy hard drive. Then I thought, what if I had fire in that apartment? I will lose my laptop and my hard drive, right? So I said, I will buy a fire-resistant safe, but I may still lose my money because, fire-resistant safe, it will not sustain like for 5-6 hours. Maybe it will work like 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours. So there's still a risk that I'm going to lose my documents, which, again, I don't have high risk appetite. So I thought, what if I bought another drive and kept it at my home in Jordan, my hometown? Great. But when I apply this risk, it will create a new risk. Okay. Thank you, Justice. Cloud storage is another thing. Yes, you are right. But again, it's create another risk. But for me, I don't want to put it in a cloud because it is private information. So I thought to keep it offline. Okay. So I said, I will buy another hard disk and I will keep it in my hometown. So when I do that, there's a new risk that maybe someone there, he will take it or they will lose it and someone will open it. Then maybe I have to put a password and I protect my information in Jordan. But if I apply the password, I will forget my password. Then I thought maybe I should buy a hard drive with biometrics, like, fingerprint. But it's very expensive. It's like 700 dirhams. It's like 500-600 dirham different from the traditional hard drive. Okay. So does it worth it really or not? So you can go through that thinking process and it will create a new risk. Secondary risk, again, it will create a new risk. Then you think about cyber attacks if you want to put in cloud. At the end of the day, you have to do a brainstorming session. So you will go through that process. You will see what is as residual risk, secondary risk. This has actually happened with me. Eventually, what I did, I bought 2 hard drives and I have 2 laptops. One I kept in Jordan and another hard drive I kept in Jordan. I put a password on those drives so no one can open them. And I have another password manager, like Bitwarden, for example. I kept all of my password in that, which is protected by biometric. Okay. So everyone will have his own idea. Maybe someone doesn't know what is password manager, like Bitwarden. Okay. So this is why we should have a brainstorming, because everyone will have different angle, different perspective. So it is really important. Okay, guys. So again, when we come to the quantification, when you do the quantitative risk analysis, it is, as again, it's complex, you need software. Sometimes you can quantify, let's say, simply, like for me, I said I have a passport, I have a cash, and I have, a hard drive. Then I thought, I went to Ace Hardware, I said, I will look for the fire safe. It was around 2,000 dirhams, water resistant and fire resistant, fireproof. Then there's another file in Amazon. It's 80 dirham or 100 dirham, and it is fire resistant for 30 minutes and it's water resistant. So I thought, okay, I don't have that much risk, or those things doesn't worth 2,000 to me. Okay. So I thought, okay, I will accept the risk. I'm not gonna buy a safe. Okay. So this is mainly the thinking process we can go through. Right. Now, we understand the risk management process. We apply it to ourselves personally. So now I think we have better understanding of how risk management framework should go, starting with risk management plan, risk identification, risk analysis, risk response, and control the risk management process. Now, let's say that you have a commercial facility. Me and you, we have maybe AMC contract. We are managing a facility. Maybe you are from the client side. So let's say that you are in a commercial facility. This is the risk register that I have prepared. I have prepared myself. So I will just skip it right now and we will go together. I'm gonna unmute the mics. If you want to participate, that would be great. So you can unmute yourself. So we will start with risk breakdown structure. For me, Omar, how I identify it. I said all sources of risk. We said, please just keep it mute unless you want to participate. So it's we'll not have any interruption for that. Thank you. So let's say that you have risk breakdown structure. You put it facilities operation, facilities maintenance, IT, communication. Okay, there's risk of communication. For me, I think communication is a huge part of facility management. So Communication, it could be, this is for the IT here, what you can, facility management, PPM, facilities operation, cleaning, security, utilities. Maybe there's a communication risk could be related. You tell your team something and they don't do it. There's a risk, right? Because of English. Someone doesn't speak English from your technicians. Okay, so we prepare our risk breakdown structure. Right, now, there's a term, anyone who went for the CFM training, they already heard about that term called business process analysis, BPA. So I have noticed that many people, they read it, but they did not understand the context and how they can apply it. We have something called mission essential functions, which if we will have interruptions to those functions, your business will be impaired in general. Maybe you cannot provide whatever you provide. So let's assume that you are in a commercial facility, as we said, and you have a food court. This food court will provide food for the people, right? So their mission essential is mainly to provide a good food for their customers. When you want to do business process analysis as a mall, okay, or a commercial facility, you have inputs from you as a facility management, and you have business unit inputs like marketing, for example, the one who's managing the mall in general or the commercial facility. So for me as facility management, what I have to provide, so this process can happen, which is food and beverage, F&B service, food and beverage, like McDonald's, Domino's Pizza, KFC, whatever the restaurant is. So business process analysis is a systematic method to identify and document all elements necessary to accomplish a mission essential function. Okay, so you will put FM because we are FM, and we put business process, business unit input, and then we have the process. This is just a very simple PPA. Okay, of course you can go with more details, but this is for simplicity. We keep it like that. Right, now, we said Junaid, he's working in a mall. Now, he identified that, not only he, as an organization or division, we identified that I have to provide power, gas, water, and chilled water. So this restaurant can do his function because, let's say, chilled water, he's using to refrigerate his food because his refrigerator is working using chilled water system. Now, when it comes to the practicality, how we are going to use that? Okay, now I understand power and gas. So are we going to sit together in a room and we will start think? This is one of the ways, of course, but there's a more precise and accurate way, which I prefer personally. Unfortunately, it's a very time consuming. You need people who can cooperate with you. But what you can do is you have a schematic diagram, right? This is my personal preference, how I prefer to do it. However, there are a lot of factors like time limitation, resources limitation. So if you have a schematic drawing, it will tell you the line going from A to point. So let's say that I am defined the location where chilled water is essential to them. It's part of their mission essential functions. Okay, it will support it. So with that said, if I have schematic drawings, I will know the pipe size, the valve type, what are the things that do, then I will go one by one. Okay, if the pipe damaged, what will happen? Okay, shall I keep a spare part? Okay, if the valve is damaged, what to do? If the gauge is damaged, it's going to impact it or not? It will not. Do I have a bypass or not? All of these questions, if you have it in schematic drawing, it's amazing. If not, maybe you have to go to the site, walk through the line and identify everything related to that line. And you can put what if scenario. What if the pipe got damaged? What if the actuator gets stuck? What if? Okay. After that, you can create your business process analysis related to FM. You understand in details. So we can say chilled water as a general. Then what about the details? Each specific unit, each specific room, each specific system. Okay. I know it's a lot of work and you might not be able to do it. However, here we are just to know, let's say, the best practice or the right practice we can do to make sure that we have a really good risk register and risk management process. So this is one of the things that you can implement, is using the drawings or going from the beginning of the line until the end of the line. Participation of technicians, supervisors, engineers, contractors, it's essential. Multiple stakeholders. Right. Go to Dubai Civil Defense website. Shopping mall risks, you can find it. Okay, another source of information. Okay, now, as a facility management division, you are having some smaller projects, right? How you consider risk management, RM, in your project? Because again, we said you will have risk from civil defense, you will have risk related to chilled water, but also one of the functions that we do, we take projects like epoxy painting, we do some installation of platforms, we do some new implementation to energy management. So how to consider risk management in the project? And keep in your mind, when we talk about risk in a project, there's risk related to time and there's risk also related to the money, right? And the quality, of course. But let's say that I want to consider the time here. I want to consider the time. What is the practice? So let's say that you have a renovation project for a washroom, and based on your experience, you should have experience, because without it, how you will know it will last 6 weeks, this scope of work? Based on your resources, you need 6 weeks. You agreed with the client 6 weeks? Not yet. But in your mind, you said it's 6 weeks. I will not tell the client 6 weeks, of course, unless there's some commitment that you have to commit with. But let's say that there is a discussion how long you want. You'll say 6 weeks on average. But there's a worst case scenario, which is 12 weeks. Like, I remember one time I had a meeting with a contractor. He said like 2 months. Okay. Then I said 2 months. What if all of your team had COVID? It was COVID time. He said, then I cannot do my job at time. I said, what if your workshop had COVID? What you will do? He said, we have to be late. And I said, your Gantt chart or project schedule is totally wrong. Go and think about it, come back. So the time almost 2.5, it become more than double. So I consider the worst case scenario. Can I do it? Can I go to my client and say, boss, I have 12 weeks? Then he will think like, what's the use of you as a project manager or facility manager if you will always go with the worst case scenario? So we can quote unquote consider this project manager unqualified or incompetent to do his job, because if you always go with the worst case scenario, what is your value? I can bring anyone and he can do it. Here it comes your evaluation for the situation. Normally what we do in the projects, when it comes to the practicality, we assume that the average is 6 weeks based on your experience, and it should be accurate to a certain degree. Then we say that the worst case scenario is 12 weeks. Normally, when you want to implement risk in the projects, you will take the average plus the worst case scenario and you divide on 2. So in that specific example, you will say, or you will tell your client, it's going to take 9 weeks, or your boss, if it's your boss, the sponsor of that project. So you will add those 3 weeks to the critical path. And this is related to project management. If you know what's critical path, which is normally the longest way, that's okay. If you don't know, just leave it. Okay. But if you are involved in a project and you know what's critical path, you need to apply the 3 weeks to the critical path, which is the longest way, to ensure that this is how the shortest time we can finish. Okay. So this is mainly how you can take risk management practically in your projects. Okay. But here I have attached some pictures that we do in our day-to-day operation, like fire alarm or MCB, manual call point protection cover, because maybe you have kids who are running in the corridors or in the parking, they can pull it. Okay. Here, maybe you have the visitors to the commercial area. They cannot see. This is why we keep it yellow sometimes, because if it's gray, they cannot see it. Sometimes they trip, and I have seen before that some customer they trip because of that. So you can make it yellow. Okay. FM 200 is part of your risk management, because if there's a fire, you want to mitigate the fire impact by keeping, suppressing the fire. Fire alarm system. It will prevent the fire from happening if you can react immediately. So it will give you indication. There's a smoke, immediately you can react. Sorry, Salwa said, one of the times in a renovation work for a big hospital, we did not find coordinated MEP as built drawings. We need to have a medical gas extension from the plant in 11th floor, the patient room in the... thank you, Salwa, but I did not understand if that question or something. So we needed to have a medical. We didn't know which staff to use through the gas pipe. Yes, of course, there are some technical difficulties. Sometimes you need to bring expert, someone who did the installation. There are many ways. Okay. Of course, if everything is available, everything will be simple, right? If I have the drawings, I have everything. But sometimes you will have a lot of difficulties related to the resources, related to the drawings. Okay, just said FM 200, especially for server room. Thank you. Yes, this is part of the data center. They will do FM 200 to protect the asset. Okay, so here you can see also a cage for a submersible pump panel, because maybe there's a kid will come to the parking and he will try to start to play with it. If he keep it off, maybe the water will overflow in the parking. This one, a protection guard, we keep it to the pipes, because if the car by mistake or someone is having a trolley, it will not hit and damage the waste pipes. this one, why we said different stakeholders. One time I had a problem inside the sewage holding tank. So one of the technician, okay, submersible pump, one of the technician brought a very long ladder. It's like 3 meters, and he put it, and the ladder will be only up to this. Sorry guys, there is a fire alarm again. Okay, I think stop. This is part of the bad maintenance we have in this building, right? So this is a false alarm, right? That there's a risk of fire, but it's actually a false alarm. So the same thing, it's really important to have proper, because let's say that in your building, there's a strong process. You should not have false alarms twice in the same like hour. We had it twice today, right? Shiffin said, we consider fire alarm as a risk. Fire alarm is a risk response. So we fix. Sorry guys, very loud. I'm gonna mute the mic for 1 second until it will stop. Okay, thank you, Shiffin, for asking. So yes, you consider it as a control measure, because if fire will happen, you will immediately know before the fire will happen. You will have a smoke, so immediately you can respond. So it's a risk response. Okay, so in that example, specific example, I had a sewage pump. So the technician put the ladder. The ladder was up to here. So I saw the technician, he's holding with that when he go down. So there's a really high probability that he will slip. Sometimes they remove the manhole cover and he will put his head inside to look. So if by mistake, someone like hit him by mistake, he will just, he will dive inside that. Okay, so there's a high risk. So again, your involvement, sometimes it's important. When I went there, I thought that, sorry guys. What a coincidence, huh? Today risk, we talk about risk, and I think there's a real fire or something. Okay, let's continue. So let's assume that this is the one. So I thought if I fix this, he can hold with it and he can go down. Another thing, he can fix his harness here. So if he fell down, he still can get attached to the harness. Another example, why you should involve, Amjad said, I don't think we can hear your fire alarm. Oh, okay, that's amazing. I didn't hear it at all. Okay, maybe there's noise cancellation or something. But it's like it happened 5 times until now. So another example why you should involve different stakeholders. Okay, so this is a support for the duct, and it's almost 2 meters height. One day, I had a manager who came to the site. So when he came, he was a very tall guy. So every time he will go to a location, Omar, why we didn't fix here? So what happened is actually, he was very tall, so he's the only one who noticed that his head might hit this one if he's a little bit taller. So we fixed some protection to the support here. Okay, so it is important to involve different stakeholders. They have different perspective, different point of views. Here we apply in gas system, LPG system. You will have solenoid valve. In case of fire, what will happen? It will stop. Or gas leak, it will automatically shut down the gas supply to that location if there's any gas leak. This is another example. Normally in the commercial facilities, you will find LED screens outside, but there is a risk always that maybe, just keep in your mind, maybe one of the employees who is an angry employee, he doesn't like the organization, he will take a flash memory, he will plug it in, and he will display inappropriate video to that screen. And imagine the image impact in your organization. So maybe you should have a password, or if someone can do a cyber attack and he changed the screen, he put some inappropriate content on the screen, so everyone will see it. It will be a huge impact to the company's image. Okay, guys. So this is some of the examples that you may face in the commercial facilities. Now, going back to the implementation of full system, you have to keep in your mind that there are softwares outside. I can put 10 examples here, and of course, there are way many. There's also another software called CAMS. Okay, you can see 360, SAI, OneTrust, many softwares. Another way is risk management spreadsheets. You will have spreadsheets through Microsoft Home Office and Google Workspace. Okay, and for example, you can use Microsoft Word to do the risk management plan, Microsoft Excel to do the risk identification, and you can use Share Team. And there are many softwares you can use. Shiffin, he raised the hand. I'm gonna unmute Shiffin. Okay, Shiffin, you can speak.
Yeah, Omar, actually, you told me about risk management softwares. So, like, what does the softwares do actually? When we type the description of a risk, they give us all the scoring, etc., or the risk factors involved, etc. Or how is it?
Thank you, Shifin. Thank you for your question. So risk softwares in general, it will be like a framework to you. It's not about identification. It will not tell you what to do. However, it will organize the process of risk management, how you're going to record it, how the team will collaborate with each other. If someone want to add a new risk, how the approval will go, who should approve it. So it's mainly arrangement of the risk management process. It's not about helping you. You might find some source of information on those application. Okay, so it depends on the application itself, but in general, software is to simplify the process of risk management and to make sure that there is a clear process, structured, streamlined, and it's easy for everyone. So this is mainly why we use software. Okay, now the details of that software, maybe we can discuss in another session later about it. However, today we want to focus on simplicity and practicality. I think most of us, we don't have the software. Sometimes the software, it's only for a high level they will use it. Okay, so we can go to the second level, which is risk management spreadsheet. Again, you can use it. And even in Microsoft 365, you can apply some approvals and you can automate. So if someone wants to add something, you can add a layer of approval. Okay, there are many details related to that. But the question will be, okay, how I'm going to implement a risk management process that it will not be idle on the shelf. I want people to use it. I want people to monitor it. I want to make sure that everyone understands risk management from the technician until the director of that company. So the risk management plan is really important to understand which system I'm going to use, right? Which spreadsheet I'm going to use, what is the sequence of that, what is the process, how are we going to do it, who will approve it. Okay, all of these things must be written actually in the risk management plan. Okay, so here I just want to show you that there are many ways how we can implement the risk management process. Unfortunately, what you can see outside, especially in FM companies, is just an Excel sheet. It will be reactive, like for an incident, and they will prepare it, they throw it, and no one will read it again. Okay, so it will not be a live document. It will be a dead document on the shared folder. So please make sure you will have a plan. Okay, if your manager asks you to do it, tell him I need a plan. Let's start with a plan. Let's start with a process. Everyone should understand it. Okay, don't just go firefighting, as they say, and you just with generic things and you just apply immediately just because your manager asked. No, tell him, boss, yes, we can prepare risk. This is the risk identification. However, we should have a risk management plan. I don't want just to create document, waste my time, waste your time, and waste everyone's time, and it will not be used again, or it will not be monitored. So this is the importance of having a plan. Without a plan, there's no use of having risk management system, right? So guys, in summary, I want just to put it in, let's say, the most important things here. Risk maturity help us. Why we do risk management? Risk management will help me and you and our organization to run our business. It will help me and you as individuals. I want to invest in stocks. Why? How? It will help me to take decision related to my business, related to myself. Risk management can be used by any organization, regardless of its size, activity, or sector. You can do it. Apply the risk management framework, avoid shortcuts. If someone is pushing you just to make risk register, make it, but tell him this is the wrong practice. You don't want to create an idle document and you put it in the shelf and no one will look at it, like what always is happening with most of our documentation. So my recommendation to you, keep it simple. Okay, keep it simple document. Because if it is a lot of documentation and the process, I do prefer a term called simplified SOPs or simplified documentation in general. Just think about it. We have a quality management system in our organizations. Who read this document except for the quality management manager, the one who's responsible for that? I don't think so. You read it. You don't have the time. I don't have the time. So I believe in having the right documents, absolutely. But we should create a short version called like simplified risk management plan, simplified business continuity plan, simplified thing that people can read it and understand it. Maybe you can have some pictures. Maybe you can have some examples, some scenarios. So the idea of having any document or any system is people should use it, right? They don't use it. What is the use of that system? Okay, guys. So that's it for today. We will wrap up the webinar here. It's almost like now 85 minutes. Thank you really for joining today at this night. I think that's amazing that we have a lot of people they joined today. you know, even it's a weekday and it's night, but still there are a lot of people are interested in those subjects. Hopefully in the future, we will do a lot of things like design for maintainability and many other subjects. I will create, I already created a group actually. Okay. Thank you, Junaid. Of course, I'm gonna now unmute you guys. So please feel free to ask anything related, not related, whatever in your mind. Just ask any question. So I'm gonna allow anyone to unmute themselves, and I'm gonna share the WhatsApp group here so you can join. So please feel free to ask anything now. Thank you, Justice. Thank you, Satinyandra. Thank you, Marah. Tariq, please, you can open your mic. Thank you, Bassam. Thank you. Tariq, you can open your mic. You can participate. I'm gonna drop the link in the chat now. 1 minute. Okay. So everyone, meeting group chat. Okay. The link of WhatsApp here, you can join it. Please feel free to join. Thank you, Muhammad. Okay, 1 minute, Tariq, let me check why you cannot unmute yourself. Okay, Tariq, you can unmute yourself now.
Thank you, Engineer Omar. I just had a question. I noticed you record these presentations. Is there any way we can access them?
Absolutely.
The recorded presentation?
Absolutely. Actually, I'm planning to start doing, as we said, monthly. And, you know, I want to put a good version because I have to edit it and it will take some time maybe. Let me check the video quality and everything. And absolutely, I'm going to upload it, but I have to review the video. But once it's done, I'm going to share the link on the, I'll put it in YouTube. It will be open. And I'm going to share also some formats. So whatever we discussed today, you can just use the simple format and hopefully it will be useful to you.
How about the ones for the CFM exam? Can we access those as well? Or are you going to be editing them at a later time?
CFM exam, sorry, I didn't get you.
I mean, the previous material that we did for the CFM.
For the CFM, it's totally different thing. This is a free webinar. CFM, we normally do it with our training center because, you know, they have some fees to that. But since you are already joined us, you just can chat me on WhatsApp. I will arrange everything for you. Don't worry about it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Engineer. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Tariq. Thank you, Khalid. I appreciate that. Guys, please feel free to ask any question. If you have anything in your mind specific to your organization, specific example, you want to add something, you want to agree, disagree, tell me, Omar, what you said is wrong. I'm open to that. Please feel free to do that. Actually, myself, when I go for any webinar or any training, first thing I will say to the instructor, sorry, I didn't agree with you about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever the reason is. So I appreciate if anyone can disagree even. It will, you know, create a valuable discussion. Thank you, Wasim. Okay, guys. So I think there are no more questions. Thank you for joining today and see you very soon. I will try to do it on monthly basis and we will, you know, we will decide what is the subject based on voting on WhatsApp group. Okay. So good night and see you soon.